Hey everyone, this is KDK. Welcome back to the channel. Today we review Batocera for the Orange Pi 5. I am using the Orange Pi 5B. It is an 8-core using the Rock chip processor, 8-core processor, 3588. And so I reserved my comments on this several months ago because the controller wasn't working. You could load up ROMs on this particular front end, and honestly, I didn't like it. And so hopefully today I want to see if they change my mind, change my opinion about this particular front end. I have my own work to work on, and so I know some of you have asked me in the past, like, hey Keo, why don't you review other people's work, maybe some other images? And typically I do, but it's a lot of work to review somebody's work, and because you're not going to know all the things that go behind the scenes as far as the front end. We definitely want to give every team credit for trying, but at the same time I wouldn't have uploaded something like what they uploaded previously. I thought it was one of the worst front ends that I had ever seen, considering the controls wouldn't work, you couldn't change emulators, it kept freezing on you, and I had a host of issues with that previous image. In fact, I couldn't even believe they released it, but I went ahead and updated this one today. Checked out a couple of other videos and thought I would give it a second chance, and I'll give you guys my thoughts right after this. You know what time it is. Let's get into it. Okay, so as of now, I am in Batocera. This is the newest version. We just went ahead and did the update. So apparently, I believe this should fix a number of the issues because, again, I've been having problems with freezing. Been adding ROMs to this particular image, particularly in regards to Game Boy and also Wii, and they don't even appear. So I don't even understand why they would have released that version without it being its finalized version, so that way you don't have to update at all. But again, as I said earlier, this is what they released several months ago. I think it was back in March. And so now I just want to show you guys really quickly how to log in using WinSCP. As you can see, I have terminal here in front of me. So typically what you want to do is you want to type in Batocera when you log in. And then you're going to type in root. And then you're going to type in the password as Linux. So that is the actual login for this, is you type in Batocera. And then for the login and password, it is root and Linux. And so we're going to go ahead and add some ROMs here. I'm going to pull up one of my folders that I always, you guys know I keep a nice, fairly robust number of ROM sets on here. And we'll go ahead and get some gameplay started and see what our performance is like. All right, looks like we have our typical ROM files on here. I don't see, okay, we got Wii in here. That should be our Dolphin emulator. Let's see, we got arcade. Just want to see what this is already kind of set up to use. So let me go ahead and pull up my folders. And this is just a quick copy and paste. If you guys really aren't too familiar with this transfer process, you can go ahead and watch one of my other previous tutorials in terms of emulation station setup and also retropie setup. There's not too much difference other than a few scripts and how certain things are set up with Batocera and retropie. Both of them are using emulation station. All right, let's go ahead and pull from our ROM pack. Let's start with a few arcade games. So we'll select arcade. And I'm also going to transfer over some Daphne because I want to see how Daphne Sans runs on here too. So let's start with Daphne. We'll go with some other basic stuff like SNES. But I got to remember, I think I'm only using a 54 gigabyte card or 60 gigabyte card. So can't transfer over too much. I'll probably have to end up deleting a set in the meantime just to test performance. But you guys want to see the performance of the Orange Pi 5. And, unfortunately, I know there are some other front ends that can run PlayStation 2, but as far as right now, PlayStation 2 emulation can't, or the emulator can't be compiled right now within particular front end sets, such as like Armbian and also retropie, and also believe Batocera too. It's kind of a letdown because I know some of you have seen videos with it running, but I don't think it's been fully disclosed that certain emulators and certain front ends can't compile some of these emulators, and that there is a drastic difference in performance depending upon which front end you decide to use. All right, I'll go ahead and pick a couple. Let's try Ghost Squad. We'll go ahead and move that over to the Wii. It's one of my favorite shooter games. Let's go ahead and pull this up. Hopefully I got enough room for it on here. All right, so we'll go ahead and start with that. So let's go ahead and jump into some gameplay. Green. I'm going to play a few games just like this and then move on to something else. I think I still have a few games still moving over, but yeah, I really have no idea why something like this would happen. So let's go ahead and load up Bad Dudes and see what kind of experience we get. I start off with tests like this just to build up a basic baseline so we can see exactly how the game emulates, and so far at least the screen appears to have turned normal. Let's give it a little volume. All right, seems to be emulating fine. I mean, this is SNES, but you know, regardless of what front end you use, you know, you can have some issues with SNES or NES actually. We had that problem when we first ported over retropie to the Pi 4. A lot of people laughed about it when Super Mario was lagging. Right? Yeah, Super Mario Brothers was lagging on it. But we should never just take emulation for granted. But for the most part, we haven't had any problems with NES or any of the games just running full speed. So let's see, where's the kick button? I thought this game had a kick button in it. All right, let's bounce on out and move over to another game. I usually like to start my test off with something like Super Mario Brothers. Let's do Super. Be a quick, easy find. There we go. All right, so far that looked good. Let's bounce on over to another game. I'm going to try some N64. Let me see if I have some room on here for it. Been having some issues trying to load up one of the Wii games. It's still transferring over. Okay, I think it's still going. So let's go ahead and back out of that. Let's bring on over an N64 game, and we'll test the emulation on that. And it looks like the main screen returned back to normal, so it's no longer green. You know, some people would probably think that it was an HDMI cable or something, but I haven't touched anything. I've just been sitting here playing it, and then obviously it reverted back to its normal colors. Something like that shouldn't happen. That has something to do with the coding built in, but we'll let that team worry about it. So we'll just move on over with our demonstration. All right, so I'm actually having difficulties loading some ROMs on here. This should be something very straightforward and simple to do. I am now transferring over the arcade ROMs for the third time, And apparently, for whatever reason, when I'm transferring over the Wii ROMs, which are Tatsunoko versus Capcom and Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, or Ghost Recon actually. Not Ghost Recon, what is the name of this game? Ghost Squad. Um, it's not fully going through it. I'm getting a security issue, but for whatever apparent reason, even the arcade ROMs and the media that I uploaded is not being recognized on this front end or on this image. So I'm going to play around with it for a few more minutes to see if it goes through, and then I'll give you guys my overall thoughts about it. It's kind of a downer. I mean, something like this should be really simple, because if you can't get your controller working, I had problems with the controller working on the previous version of Batocera, which is why I never did a review on it. And then transferring over ROMs, this is something that should be simple and straightforward. And one of the other issues I had previously was that I transferred over the Wii ROMs and some of the other ROMs over from particular arcade sets and console sets, and it would not show up in the menu. Went through there, checked everything. That's something that should be automatic. Once you add the ROMs to a particular folder, the folder should register on the Batocera front end, and for whatever reason, it doesn't. So we'll see if this goes through, and then continue from there. So this will probably be the final time, or the last time, I ever review a Orange Pi 5 Batocera image. I don't have time for this kind of stuff. So as you guys can see, I have a bunch of arcade ROMs in here, and that's why we go over to Batocera itself. I'm currently using the latest version, dated June 16th, 2023. The previous version, which I was using, had a ton of freaking errors in it. The controller would freeze up whole 9 yards. A lot of issues with everything. And so I'm not going to go down or downgrade this. I'm going to stay with this right now. But as you can see, none of the arcade games show up. None of the Wii games show up. I can bounce back over here really quickly to desktop. Even though I don't think everything fully installed, something, or at least the folder itself, should pop up, because there are files in there. And so this is really despicable. I can't believe they would release something like this. I do believe that there have been a couple of other reviews, but this is what my experience is. This shouldn't happen. This is something that's really simple, and I can only imagine what you, the users, are out there doing or getting yourselves into. You know, and regardless if people are taking their time out to, you know, offer some type of front end for you to enjoy for gaming, this is just a waste of time. This is one reason why I don't review everybody's work, because you end up just trying to figure out what's going on. You might could be troubleshooting or making advancements to my own project. But I can tell you, even right now from the Supreme Retropie stuff, we don't even have these kind of problems. But all right, I can see that this apparently is working. This is 007. Looks like it might be using some type of parallel emulator. Well, you know, I'm not even going to touch that. Let's just go ahead and play it, enjoy it, and see what type of emulation we get. This is for the N64. I don't have my volume turned up all the way, so I can't listen for any sound stutters and stuff, but so far it looks okay. All right, let's move on to another title. See how this performs. Let's try cruising. I want to see if this is set to default. Again, you guys don't have to overclock any of these games to get maximum performance. Just lower the resolution. So we'll see if they already have this set. Okay, it looks like resolution might be already set. I can tell the graphics and the performance looks pretty good so far from what we're accustomed to. All right. Looks nice. Again, this is all the emulator doing the work, so you know. And another thing I definitely want to mention, I know sometimes some of us will look at a video review and try to compare performance. In order to know if you're getting the 100% emulation experience or having the game run as it should, you have to play the whole game all the way through. Because you could play the first few levels with the sound, and then the next third or fourth level will get closer to the end, and then everything starts either getting choppy or graphics are missing. So you really never know if anything is being fully emulated as it should unless you play all the game through, and you have to also be familiar with all the sights and sounds of the game, because like even right now I'm playing this game, it looks great, but I'm not familiar with all the additional background settings, if there's any sprites missing. But if you're happy with it, if it's running pretty smoothly, then that's kind of all you can really be concerned about. But some things are obvious, like if the whole screen was black in the background or clouds was missing, then I think that's something very obvious because we would know that's a sky setting. But something like this is very hard to miss. But again, you have to be familiar with all the sights, the sounds, the emulation, the hiccups to know if it's running correctly as it should. So, all right, well, I'm impressed with this one. This one's running pretty good. I didn't have to go in and adjust any of the monitor settings, because typically you could have this come in at either 1080p or 720, and if you drop it down to 720, then it gives you better performance for the emulator, because as you guys know, none of the emulators, or most of the emulators, aren't set or made for 1080p emulation, and definitely not set for 4K. Even if you set it to 4K, it's only being upscaled, but it's not running at 4K, guys. It's typically maybe 480p, and then like a game like this is a oh shoot, it's a 480p type game, not even 720p. But you can get it upscaled, and you know there could be some graphical finishes to it. But all right, let's try one more thing, because I know a few days ago somebody was commenting about C64 emulation. I'm not even going to try No Mercy because I have an idea about how that would run. So let's try Commodore 64. And I believe Batocera, this one is about one of about 4, maybe 5 retro gaming images currently made for the Orange Pi 5, provided by the community. So we have the Supreme image, we have mines, we also have this Batocera, that's 2, Jellios, and I think 1 or 2 more, if I do recall. So all right, looks like we do have Commodore 64. It is running. That's all I wanted to see. And another cool thing that I can say about this image is that it does have Kodi on here, so that does launch. So that tells me that they aren't running Armbian. Armbian gives you a different additional overclocking enhancements to the Orange Pi 5. And so if you guys have been familiar or followed some of my videos, Kodi doesn't work in an Armbian environment. I believe they're still working on that. And so I know that it worked on my previous image, but it doesn't work on the latest image that I've worked on because it doesn't support Armbian. So that's just another hiccup. Maybe that'll be possibly improved in the future, or that glitch will be fixed. But you know, you have so many different layers to this, making sure you get compatibility for front end to work, because most of these images like Emulation Station, RetroPie, Batocera, they're not native to the Rock Pi chip, and so a lot of work has to go into it just to get it to boot. Changing sound files, things of that nature. I can tell you guys it would have taken us about 3 weeks just to adjust the sound, even for retropie, because of how everything is constructed here on this single board computer. All right, so these are the only systems I'm allowed to run right now. I did transfer over more games. Let me try one more thing. Let's see here. I'm going to try to transfer one last time, try to transfer over some arcade games or something else. Maybe Daphne Singe. See if we can get something like that going. I know Daphne has, let's see, well, maybe I think I'll do a Thomas Wave. Yeah, I think I'll do a Thomas Wave. Daphne's really not heavy on resources, and you know, I've ran it before. It runs pretty nicely, so I don't have any doubts that you know, this is a unit or system could handle it. All right, so still none of the arcade games are showing up in here. Don't know why. Not my problem. I'm not going to figure it out. So let's see what Sega Saturn can give us. All right, so the right emulator is not set by default. I'm going to try the other. You know what? No, let me go back. Typically, this will work if you could set it to the right emulator, but I forgot what the settings might be on Batocera. Let's go ahead and try Fighting Vipers. That should work. Usually with Saturn, there's two emulators. I can't remember which two they are off the top of my head. I do have it set on my image, but the emulator should work. Sega Saturn is not too hard to emulate. I mean, the only thing to worry about is performance, but there's two emulators on there that should guarantee that. Okay, that's not good at all. Let's see. Let's try filter games, advanced system options. That's not what I'm looking for. All right, it looks like we got Earthworm Jim starting up. This is a 2D game, so we shouldn't have any issues. You know what? I probably should have added... let me see if I can find Virtual Cop, since I've done a lot of testing with that one. See Sega, see Saturn. Yeah, this is a 2D game, so it doesn't surprise me that it's running pretty fluently. Yeah, there's nice speeds on here. Yeah, no surprise at all. All right, let's back out of this. We already know how this is going to work. All right, let's go ahead. We may have to reboot here. I just loaded up Virtual Cop, so you guys could get a better idea about how this performs, because I know that's a 3D based game, so it does struggle trying to run in this type of environment. Let's go ahead and refresh and we'll be right back. All right, looks like the game may load up. looks like it might be freezing. All right, so let's back out of this one. Let's try a different ROM. All right, so far so good. Looks like we might get some action here. All right. So you go to arcade. All right, runs about the same as it does on retropie. Ah, shoot. Hate this part. All right, looks good so far. I mean, it's not running at exact full speed as it should, or what you guys would be accustomed to, but it is acceptable in my opinion. All right, so let's try the other one. Let's see if it starts up. I loaded in some different ROMs for this one, for Virtual Cop and Virtual Cop 2. So that's why it initially didn't load up the first time. I mean, sometimes it can, just depends on what emulator they're using. But this isn't too bad. All right, so it appears this one's having issues as well. So in conclusion, if for those of you looking for another front end, obviously there's a couple of other choices out there for the Orange Pi 5. And again, to reiterate, I'm using the Orange Pi 5B, but I had the same issues on the regular Pi 5 because I got both of them. But all in all, it looks like they are, it's a work in progress. They aren't fully there yet. For those of you who are familiar with retropie, I'm sorry, not retropie, but Batocera on the Raspberry Pi 4, you will be disappointed because there are a number of things missing here, things obviously that don't seem to be straightforward. I did upgrade, I did downgrade, had issues with both of them, but you will get kiodiekin on here, you will get a number of other systems, but as far as this being a complete unit, and considering there's many other single board computers out there and you're looking for retro gaming, I wouldn't spend my money getting an Orange Pi 5 if I'm particularly going to use this front end. There's other single board computers out there, and even computers. In fact, the Orange Pi 5 is about $90. That's a lot of money to spend to run some basic retro games that you could run on some other single board computers, and then of course also PC as well. So I would have to give this one a pass. In fact, previously I reserved my comments because I did a review on this one, never uploaded it, and I said to myself, you know, this is one of the worst front ends I've ever used with all the hiccups and issues. I wouldn't have released something like this, considering in fact you can load up ROMs. The games obviously don't appear here on the screen. Initially, thank God, the controllers work, and I haven't tried a number of controllers. I am using a Microsoft type controller, but I should probably try the PlayStation and several other ones just to see if it even works on here. But for the most part, I mean, the graphic performance, as far as what you would get with the emulator, would be typically what you would get across some of the other front ends that are out there. But with that being said, I hope you guys like and subscribe and check out my other social media. I do have a few more releases of my own coming out. And until the next time, I will catch you guys later. Peace out and have a great day. Bye-bye.